Imagine this, you're just going about your day, minding your own business, when suddenly, out of nowhere, your life takes a turn you never saw coming. That's exactly what happened to Alex. A quiet evening commute turned into something that would change their life forever. And no, it wasn't just any random twist of fate. It started with a medical emergency but ended in a story so unexpected, so heartfelt, that you won't believe how things unfolded. In this video, we're diving deep into Alex's journey, a tale filled with tension, vulnerability, and ultimately, love. You'll hear how a routine trip home spiraled into chaos, how one person stepped in at the most critical moment, and how two strangers found each other in the unlikeliest of places. But here's the thing, this isn't just another romance story. It's about connection, trust, and the power of second chances. By the end of this video, you'll not only feel inspired, you might even see emergencies in a whole new light. So, if you've ever wondered how life can surprise you when you least expect it, stick around. Trust me, you don't want to miss where this story goes. Now, let's rewind to that fateful night. Alex was someone most of us could relate to, hardworking, ambitious, and laser-focused on climbing the career ladder. In their late 20s, Alex spent long hours at work, often skipping meals and social events just to stay ahead. They weren't much of a people person either, introverted by nature. Alex preferred solitude over crowded parties or small talk. Life revolved around deadlines, coffee breaks, and the occasional guilty pleasure binge watch after work. But one evening, everything changed. As Alex walked to their car after yet another exhausting day, they felt an unfamiliar tightness in their chest. At first, they brushed it off as stress or maybe indigestion. But then came the shortness of breath, the kind that makes panic rise in your throat like wildfire. Suddenly, standing alone under the dim streetlights, Alex realized this wasn't normal. This was serious. With trembling hands, they dialed for help. Minutes later, flashing lights pierced through the darkness as paramedics arrived, loading Alex onto a stretcher. The world blurred around them as they were rushed to the hospital. Inside the chaos reigned supreme, but within that chaos, there was order. Nurses moved swiftly, machines beeped insistently, and voices overlapped in urgent tones. Amidst all of this, one face stood out, Drive. Ryan Carter. Ryan was the attending physician who took charge of Alex's case. Calm and confident, he exuded a presence that instantly put patients at ease. As he examined Alex, there was a brief moment, a fleeting glance between them, that hinted at something deeper beneath the surface. Neither said a word about it, but both felt it. Something unspoken passed between doctor and patient, though neither could have guessed what lay ahead. After running tests, doctors determined that Alex wasn't in immediate danger and admitted them for observation overnight. But little did Alex know, this encounter wasn't over, not by a long shot. What began as a terrifying ordeal would soon evolve into something far greater than either of them could have imagined. If you're wondering how a medical emergency led to something so profound, keep watching. Because this is more than just a story, it's proof that sometimes, life throws you curveballs for a reason. Welcome back to our channel, where every story has a lesson and every moment matters. If you enjoyed this intro and want to hear the rest of Alex and Ryan's incredible journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let's explore together how fate works in mysterious ways, and why some connections are simply meant to be. Alex lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling as the sounds of the filtered through the thin walls. Beeping monitors, muffled voices, and the occasional squeak of rubber soles on tiled floors created a strange kind of rhythm. It was calming in its own way, though Alex couldn't shake the lingering anxiety from earlier that night. Their chest still felt tight, not from pain anymore, but from the weight of everything that had happened. Dr. Ryan Carter walked in just as Alex was trying to sit up a little straighter. He carried a clipboard, his white coat crisp and clean, but there was something about him that softened the clinical atmosphere. Maybe it was the way he smiled, small, genuine, and just enough to make you feel like you weren't just another patient on his list. Or maybe it was the calm authority in his voice when he spoke. "How are you feeling?" he asked, glancing briefly at the chart before turning his full attention to Alex. His eyes were sharp, observant, yet kind. "Better," Alex replied, their voice quieter than they intended. "Still a little shaken, I guess." Ryan nodded, pulling up a stool to sit beside the bed. That's completely normal. What you went through tonight would rattle anyone. But we'll keep an eye on you, make sure everything stays stable. As he began asking routine follow-up questions about stress levels, diet, sleep patterns, Alex found themselves opening up more than they usually would. There was something disarming about Ryan's demeanor, the way he listened without rushing or interrupting. For someone who rarely talked about personal matters, Alex surprised even themselves by admitting how overwhelmed they'd been lately with work and life in general. "You can't pour from an empty cup," Ryan said gently after a pause. "I know it's easier said than done, but taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary." Alex looked at him then, really looked at him, and noticed the faint lines around his eyes, the slight roughness in his voice that hinted at long hours spent caring for others. They wondered if he practiced what he preached, if he ever took time to slow down himself. The thought lingered longer than it should have. Over the next few days, Ryan became a constant presence during Alex's stay. He checked in regularly, always asking how they were doing, not just physically, but emotionally too. Each visit left Alex feeling a little lighter, a little less alone. And yet, there was an undercurrent they couldn't quite name, a tension that crackled subtly between them whenever their hands accidentally brushed while adjusting the IV line or when Ryan lingered just a moment too long before leaving the room. One afternoon, as Ryan leaned over to examine the heart monitor, their fingers grazed against each other. Both froze for a split second, neither saying a word. Alex quickly pulled their hand back, cheeks flushing hot despite their best efforts to stay composed. Ryan cleared his throat and continued his assessment, but the air between them shifted noticeably. Something unspoken hung there, fragile and uncertain. By the time Alex was discharged, they felt torn. On one hand, they were relieved to leave the sterile environment of the hospital behind. On the other, they weren't ready to say goodbye to Ryan, not entirely. As they prepared to go, Ryan offered parting advice: take breaks. Breathe. Life doesn't stop moving, but you can choose how fast you run. Those words stuck with Alex long after they stepped out of the hospital doors. Walking away felt heavier than it should have, like leaving behind something they hadn't fully realized they wanted. Days turned into a week, and Alex tried to settle back into their routine. Work demanded their attention, emails piled up, and deadlines loomed large. But no matter how busy they stayed, thoughts of Ryan kept creeping in. They replayed their conversations in their head, analyzing every glance, every touch, every word. Had Ryan felt it too? That pull, that spark? Or was Alex reading too much into things? Then came the day Alex decided to grab coffee near the hospital, a place they used to pass by often but never stopped at. As fate would have it, Ryan was there, sitting at a corner table with a steaming cup in front of him. When he spotted Alex walking in, his face lit up with recognition. "Hey," he said, standing as Alex approached. "I didn't think I'd see you here." "Neither did I," Alex admitted, suddenly nervous. "Just thought I'd try somewhere new." They ended up sitting together, talking effortlessly about everything and nothing. Books, music, favorite places to unwind, it all came pouring out naturally. Ryan shared stories about growing up in a small town, about finding his passion for medicine early on, and about learning to navigate life as an openly gay man. Alex listened intently, struck by how open and genuine he was. For the first time in a long while, Alex let their guard down. They talked about feeling lost sometimes, about wanting more from life but not knowing where to start. Ryan didn't offer solutions, instead, he simply listened, nodding occasionally and offering quiet reassurance. When the conversation drifted toward art exhibits happening nearby, Ryan hesitated for a moment before suggesting, "There's a gallery showing this weekend. If you're interested, maybe we could check it out." The invitation caught Alex off guard, but not unpleasantly so. Part of them wanted to decline, to retreat back into the safety of solitude, but another part, louder and braver, said yes. As they parted ways outside the cafe, both seemed reluctant to end the meeting. Ryan gave a small wave before heading back toward the hospital, and Alex watched him go, heart pounding in a way that felt foreign yet exhilarating. Walking home, Alex couldn't help but smile. For the first time in ages, they felt hopeful, not because of anything monumental, but because of something simple and real. A connection made in the most unexpected place, a bond forged not out of convenience but necessity. Whatever came next, Alex knew one thing for certain. They wouldn't forget this moment anytime soon. The art exhibit was held in a converted warehouse on the outskirts of the city, its brick walls adorned with vibrant paintings and thought-provoking installations. Alex arrived a few minutes early, their hands shoved deep into the pockets of their jacket as they tried to calm the flutter in their chest. They hadn't been on anything resembling a date in years, and the uncertainty of what this meeting might mean left them both excited and uneasy. When Ryan appeared, walking toward them with that same confident yet approachable stride, Alex felt an immediate sense of relief. He wore a casual blazer over a dark t-shirt, his hair slightly tousled from the evening breeze. His smile widened as he got closer, and Alex found themselves mirroring it without even realizing. "You made it," Ryan said, stopping just a foot away. His tone was light, but there was a warmth in his voice that made Alex's nerves settle. "Yeah, I did," Alex replied, returning the smile. "Thanks for inviting me." "No problem. I figured you'd appreciate something outside the usual coffee shop vibe." He gestured toward the entrance of the gallery. "Shall we?" They stepped inside together, the hum of quiet conversation and soft jazz filling the space. The air smelled faintly of paint and polished wood, and the dim lighting gave everything a cozy, intimate feel. As they wandered through the exhibits, Alex couldn't help but notice how effortlessly Ryan engaged them. He asked thoughtful questions about the pieces they passed, sharing insights that revealed a depth Alex hadn't expected. At one point, they stopped in front of a large abstract painting, a swirl of bold colors that seemed chaotic at first glance but somehow balanced upon closer inspection. Ryan tilted his head, studying it intently. "What do you see when you look at this?" he asked, glancing at Alex. Alex hesitated, unsure how to put their thoughts into words. "I guess, movement. Like it's trying to capture something restless, maybe even unfinished." Ryan nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "That's beautiful. I think you're right, it feels alive, doesn't it? Like it's still becoming whatever it's meant to be." Their eyes met briefly, and Alex felt a jolt of electricity shoot through them. There was something profoundly intimate about standing so close, sharing interpretations of art like it was a secret language only they understood. It wasn't just the painting that felt alive, it was the moment itself, charged with unspoken possibilities. As they moved deeper into the gallery, their conversation shifted naturally from art to life. Ryan spoke openly about growing up gay in a conservative town, about the challenges of finding acceptance, not just from others but from himself. He admitted that being a doctor sometimes felt like hiding behind a mask, burying parts of who he was to fit into a world that didn't always understand him. "I guess I've always been drawn to helping people because it reminds me why connection matters," he said, his gaze steady. "But it's not always easy to let someone else in, you know." Alex nodded, feeling a lump rise in their throat. "Yeah, I get that. I've spent most of my life keeping people at arm's length. Easier that way." Ryan smiled softly, his hand brushing against Alex's as they walked. Whether intentional or accidental, the touch lingered, sending a shiver down Alex's spine. Neither pulled away. By the time they reached the final room of the exhibit, the crowd had thinned out, leaving them almost alone. A series of photographs lined the walls, black and white images capturing raw, unfiltered moments of human emotion. One photo in particular caught Alex's eye, a close-up of two hands intertwined, weathered and imperfect but undeniably connected. "That one speaks to me," Ryan murmured, standing beside them. "It's simple, but there's so much trust in those hands." Alex swallowed hard, their heart pounding louder than before. They wanted to say something meaningful, something profound, but all that came out was a quiet, "yeah." Ryan turned to face them then, his expression soft but searching. "Alex, can I ask you something?" "Sure," Alex replied, though their voice wavered slightly. "Do you feel it too? This pull between us? Or am I imagining things?" For a moment, Alex couldn't breathe. The question hung in the air, heavy and fragile, demanding honesty. They looked at Ryan, the sincerity in his eyes, the vulnerability in his posture, and knew they couldn't lie, not now. "I feel it," Alex admitted finally, their voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what to do with it." Ryan exhaled sharply, as if he'd been holding his breath waiting for an answer. "We don't have to figure it out tonight," he said gently. "But I want you to know, I'm here. Whatever happens next, I want to take it slow, okay?" Tears pricked at the corners of Alex's eyes, though they blinked them away quickly. No one had ever spoken to them like that, with such care and patience. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. They ended the evening sitting on a bench outside the gallery, the cool night air wrapping around them like a blanket. Stars dotted the sky above, and the distant hum of traffic provided a soothing backdrop to their quiet conversation. For hours, they talked about fears, dreams, regrets, and hopes. By the time they finally stood to leave, Alex felt lighter, as if some invisible weight had lifted off their shoulders. Walking Alex to their car, Ryan hesitated before saying goodbye. "Thank you for tonight," he said, his voice warm. "I really enjoyed it." "Me too," Alex replied, smiling despite the nervous energy coursing through them. "We should do it again sometime." Ryan grinned, and for a brief second, it looked like he might reach for Alex's hand. Instead, he settled for a small wave. "Definitely. Drive safe, okay." As Alex drove home, their mind raced with thoughts of Ryan, his laugh, his kindness, the way he made them feel seen in a way no one else ever had. For the first time in what felt like forever, Alex allowed themselves to imagine a future where connection wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace. The days following the art exhibit felt different for Alex. There was a newfound lightness in their step, a subtle buzz of excitement that lingered even during the most mundane tasks at work. They replayed snippets of the evening in their mind, the way Ryan had tilted his head while examining the paintings, the warmth in his voice when he spoke about connection, and the vulnerability in his eyes when he asked if Alex felt the same pull between them. It wasn't just the memory of those moments that stayed with them, it was the possibility they represented. When Ryan texted a few days later, casual, friendly, asking how Alex was doing, it felt like a lifeline. Alex stared at the screen for a moment before typing out a response, their fingers hovering over the keyboard as if unsure what tone to strike. In the end, they kept it simple. "Hey, I'm good. Still thinking about that photo of the hands." Ryan's reply came quickly, "Me too. Maybe we should find our own version of that someday." Alex smiled at the message, feeling a warmth spread through their chest. It wasn't overtly romantic, but there was an intimacy in the suggestion, a quiet promise that neither of them seemed ready to rush. Over the next few days, their texts became a steady rhythm, small updates, shared jokes, and occasional musings about life. Each exchange left Alex wanting more, yet they were careful not to let themselves get swept away too quickly. This was new territory for both of them, and they wanted to tread lightly. Their next meeting happened organically. Ryan suggested grabbing coffee again, this time at a quieter spot tucked into a side street. The cafe was cozy, with mismatched furniture and shelves lined with books. When Alex arrived, Ryan was already seated by the window, a steaming mug in front of him. He looked up as Alex approached, his face breaking into a grin. "You found it," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Yeah, though I almost walked past it twice," Alex admitted, sliding into the seat. "This place blends in pretty well. It's one of my favorites," Ryan replied, pushing a menu toward them. "Not many people know about it, which makes it perfect for thinking, or talking." As they ordered drinks and settled in, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They talked about everything, the latest book Ryan had read, the stress of Alex's upcoming project deadline, and even childhood memories that made them laugh until tears welled up in their eyes. But beneath the surface-level chatter, there was an undeniable undercurrent of something deeper. Every glance, every pause, carried a weight that neither of them could ignore. At one point, Alex hesitated before broaching a topic they'd been thinking about for days. "Can I ask you something? About us?" Ryan set his cup down, his expression softening. "Of course. I guess I'm just wondering, where do you see this going?" Alex asked, their voice tentative. "I mean, I like spending time with you. A lot. But I don't want to assume anything." Ryan nodded slowly, his gaze steady. "I've been thinking about that too. And honestly, I'm not sure where it's headed either. But I do know that I enjoy being around you. You make me feel present, in a way I haven't felt in a long time." His words hung in the air, simple yet profound. Alex felt a lump rise in their throat, unsure whether it was relief or emotion that made it hard to speak. "I feel the same way," they managed finally. "But I'll admit, I'm scared. Opening up isn't easy for me." "I get that," Ryan said softly. And I'm not expecting anything overnight. We can take it as slow as you need. All I want is to keep getting to know you, really know you. There was a sincerity in his voice that made Alex's heart ache in the best possible way. For someone who had spent years building walls, the idea of letting someone in felt terrifying, but also exhilarating. Ryan wasn't pushing, wasn't demanding. He was simply offering, and that made all the difference. As the afternoon stretched into evening, they decided to take a walk through the nearby park. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves. Streetlights cast golden pools onto the path, and the sound of distant laughter echoed faintly in the background. They strolled side by side, close enough that their shoulders occasionally brushed against each other. Neither pulled away. Eventually, they found themselves on a secluded bench overlooking a small pond. The water shimmered under the moonlight, reflecting the stars scattered across the sky. For a while, they sat in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling with words. I don't usually do this, Alex said suddenly, their voice barely above a whisper. Let people in, I mean. Ryan turned to look at them, his expression gentle. You don't have to explain yourself to me. Everyone has their own pace. But I want to, Alex continued, their hands fidgeting in their lap. With you, I feel like maybe I can try. Even if it scares me. Ryan reached out then, his hand covering Alex's. The contact sent a jolt through Alex's body, grounding them in the moment. I'm scared too, Ryan admitted. Not because of you, but because I care about this. About us. And caring means risking something. They sat like that for a moment, hands intertwined, the world around them fading into the background. Then, almost instinctively, Ryan leaned in, his movements slow and deliberate. Alex froze, their breath catching in their throat. This was it, the moment they'd been circling around without fully acknowledging. When Ryan's lips met theirs, it was soft, hesitant, as if giving Alex the chance to pull back. But instead, Alex leaned into the kiss, their eyes fluttering shut as a wave of emotion washed over them. It wasn't passionate or desperate, it was tender, full of unspoken understanding and trust. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily, their foreheads resting against each other. I've wanted to do that since the first time I saw you, Ryan murmured, his voice thick with emotion. Alex laughed softly, tears pricking at the corners of their eyes. I think I've wanted it too. I just didn't realize it until now. They stayed on the bench for a while longer, holding onto each other as if afraid the moment might slip away. For the first time in what felt like forever, Alex allowed themselves to believe in the possibility of something real, something lasting. As they walked back to their cars later that night, their hands remained linked, fingers laced tightly together. Whatever lay ahead, they knew they wouldn't face it alone. The days that followed their kiss were a blur of emotions for Alex. On one hand, they felt lighter, as if a weight they hadn't even realized they'd been carrying had finally lifted. On the other hand, there was a gnawing uncertainty, a fear that maybe they were moving too fast or expecting too much. They replayed the moment on the bench over and over in their mind, savoring the tenderness of Ryan's touch and the way his words had made them feel seen. But with every replay came a flicker of doubt. Was this real? Could it last? Ryan, sensing Alex's hesitation, gave them space. He didn't bombard them with messages or demands, instead, he sent thoughtful texts checking in. Nothing overwhelming, just enough to remind Alex that he was still there. Each message was like a lifeline, pulling Alex back from the edge of their own insecurities. Still, Alex couldn't shake the voice in their head that whispered warnings. What if you're not ready for this? What if you mess it up? One evening, after another long day at work, Alex found themselves staring at their phone, Ryan's latest text glowing softly on the screen. How are you holding up? I've been thinking about you. The simplicity of the message hit Alex hard. No pressure, no expectations, just genuine care. It was exactly what they needed, yet it also forced them to confront the fact that they owed Ryan honesty. Taking a deep breath, Alex typed out a reply. Can we meet? There's something I need to say. Ryan responded almost immediately, of course. When and where? They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near Alex's apartment, the same one where they'd first reconnected after the hospital. As Alex walked in, they spotted Ryan sitting by the window, his hands wrapped around a steaming mug. He looked up and smiled when he saw them, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. Hey, Ryan said as Alex slid into the seat across from him. You okay? Alex hesitated, their fingers twisting nervously around the strap of their bag. "I'm not sure," they admitted finally. "That's why I wanted to talk." Ryan nodded, setting his mug down. "Okay. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." His calm assurance helped steady Alex's nerves, but the words still tumbled out in a rush. "I don't know if I'm ready for this, for us. Not because of you, but because of me. I've spent so long keeping people at arm's length that letting someone in feels terrifying. And I don't want to screw this up." Ryan listened quietly, his expression softening as Alex spoke. When they finished, he reached across the table, covering Alex's hand with his own. "First of all, thank you for being honest with me. That means a lot. Second," he paused, choosing his words carefully. "I'm scared too, Alex. This isn't easy for me either. But I think part of being with someone is learning how to navigate those fears together. We don't have to have everything figured out right now. All I want is to be here for you, however you need me." Tears welled up in Alex's eyes, though they blinked them away quickly. No one had ever spoken to them like that, with such patience and understanding. It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. I don't want to disappoint you," Alex whispered. "You won't," Ryan said firmly. "Not unless you run away without giving us a chance. And I promise, I'll do my best not to let you down either." Their conversation stretched late into the evening, the cafe growing quieter around them as patrons thinned out. They talked about their fears, their hopes, and the boundaries they both needed to feel safe. By the time they left, Alex felt a little lighter, as if sharing their doubts had taken some of their power away. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a rhythm. They met for coffee, went on walks through the park, and spent lazy afternoons talking about everything and nothing. Small gestures became milestones, holding hands in public, exchanging keys to each other's apartments, leaving notes on kitchen counters. Each step forward was deliberate, built on trust and mutual respect. But not everything was smooth sailing. One afternoon, Alex noticed Ryan seemed distracted during their video call. His responses were shorter than usual, and there was a tension in his voice that set off alarm bells in Alex's mind. When they asked if something was wrong, Ryan hesitated before admitting that a colleague at the hospital had made a comment about his personal life. "It's fine," Ryan said quickly, brushing it off. Someone noticed I've been leaving early a couple times and made a joke about it. Nothing serious." But Alex could see the strain behind his smile. "It doesn't sound like nothing. Do you want to talk about it?" Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I guess it just reminded me how complicated things can get when your professional and personal lives overlap. I don't regret anything with you, not for a second, but sometimes it feels like walking a tightrope." Alex nodded, feeling a pang of guilt. "I don't want to make your life harder, Ryan. If this is putting too much pressure on you." "No," Ryan interrupted, his tone firm. "Don't ever think that. You're not a burden, Alex. This thing between us, it's worth protecting, even if it means dealing with some challenges along the way." Their conversation ended with a renewed commitment to supporting each other, no matter what came their way. Over the following days, Alex made an effort to check in more often, sending encouraging texts and offering to help however they could. In return, Ryan leaned on Alex when work got stressful, finding solace in their quiet presence. Through these moments of vulnerability, their bond deepened. They learned to communicate openly, to listen without judgment, and to celebrate the small victories together. A shared meal became a triumph of connection. A quiet evening curled up on the couch felt like a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world. By the time winter rolled around, their relationship had settled into something steady and warm. Neither of them knew exactly where it would lead, but they were no longer afraid of the unknown. For the first time in their lives, both Alex and Ryan allowed themselves to believe that love wasn't just about grand gestures or perfect timing. It was about showing up, day after day, and choosing each other despite the fears and uncertainties. And as snow began to dust the city streets, they found themselves standing on the threshold of something neither of them had expected, a future they were ready to build together. Months had passed since that snowy evening when Alex and Ryan first acknowledged the depth of what they shared. What began as tentative steps toward connection had grown into something solid, a bond that felt both natural and profound. Their lives intertwined in ways neither of them could have predicted. Morning coffee rituals became sacred, late-night conversations stretched into dawn, and even the mundane moments carried an undercurrent of meaning. Yet, for all the joy they found in each other, there were still challenges to navigate, reminders that love wasn't just about blissful moments but also about resilience. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the hospital, Ryan came home visibly drained. His shoulders slumped as he dropped his bag by the door, and Alex immediately noticed the tension etched across his face. Without saying a word, they handed him a cup of tea and guided him to the couch. Sitting beside him, Alex rested a hand on his knee. "Long day?" Alex asked gently. Ryan exhaled deeply, leaning back against the cushions. "Yeah, just one of those days where it feels like no matter how hard you try, nothing goes right." Alex listened quietly as Ryan recounted the details: a difficult patient case, administrative frustrations, and the lingering stress of feeling constantly scrutinized at work. It wasn't the first time Ryan had shared these struggles, but tonight, his voice carried a heaviness that made Alex's chest ache. They wanted so badly to fix things for him, to take away the weight pressing down on his shoulders, but they knew better than to offer empty reassurances. Instead, Alex simply stayed close, their presence steady and unwavering. When Ryan finally fell silent, staring blankly at the wall, Alex spoke softly. "You're allowed to feel overwhelmed, you know. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore." Ryan turned to look at them, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't know how I would have gotten through this year without you," he admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "You remind me that it's okay to lean on someone, to let myself be human." Alex reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from Ryan's forehead. "That's what we're here for, isn't it? To hold each other up when the world feels too heavy." They sat like that for a while, wrapped in silence and the warmth of shared understanding. For Ryan, it was a moment of clarity, a reminder that love wasn't about grand declarations or dramatic gestures. It was about showing up, again and again, even when life felt messy and uncertain. As winter gave way to spring, their relationship continued to evolve. They celebrated small victories together, Ryan finishing a tough rotation at the hospital, Alex landing a promotion at work, or simply surviving another chaotic week intact. But it wasn't always smooth sailing. There were disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments when fear crept back in, when Alex worried they weren't enough, or when Ryan doubted whether he was balancing his responsibilities well enough. Yet, each challenge only strengthened their resolve to make it work. They learned to communicate openly, to listen without judgment, and to prioritize each other even amidst busy schedules. One weekend, they decided to spend a quiet Saturday cooking together, experimenting with recipes they'd never tried before. Flour dusted the countertops, laughter filled the air, and for a few hours, the outside world faded away. It was during moments like these that Alex realized how far they'd come. Once terrified of intimacy, they now craved it, not just physically, but emotionally. Being vulnerable with Ryan didn't feel like a risk anymore, it felt like freedom. And Ryan, who had spent years guarding parts of himself, found solace in letting Alex see him fully, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Then came the night that changed everything. After a dinner date at their favorite Italian restaurant, Ryan invited Alex back to his apartment. It wasn't unusual, they often spent evenings together, but tonight felt different. The air between them buzzed with anticipation, charged with an unspoken question hanging over them. As they settled onto the couch, sipping wine and discussing plans for the upcoming summer, Ryan suddenly set his glass down and turned to face Alex. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice low but steady. "About us. About how much you mean to me." Alex's heart skipped a beat, though they tried to play it cool. "Yeah, what about us?" Ryan hesitated, searching for the right words. "I guess, I want to ask if you'd consider staying over more often. Not because I'm trying to rush anything, but because I want you here, with me. In my space, in my life. Completely." For a moment, Alex couldn't breathe. The request was simple, yet it carried so much weight. It wasn't just about spending nights together, it was about trust, commitment, and choosing to build something lasting. Tears pricked at the corners of their eyes as they nodded slowly. "Yes," Alex whispered, their voice cracking slightly. "I'd like that." That night, as they lay side by side in Ryan's bed, the room bathed in soft moonlight, Alex felt a sense of peace they hadn't known was possible. This wasn't just physical intimacy, it was emotional safety, a sanctuary created by two people who had chosen to love each other despite their fears. Ryan's arms wrapped around them, holding them close, and Alex finally allowed themselves to believe that they belonged here. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting golden patterns across the walls. Ryan stirred awake first, watching Alex sleep for a moment before gently brushing a kiss against their temple. Alex blinked open their eyes, smiling sleepily. "Morning," Ryan murmured. "Morning," Alex replied, their voice thick with contentment. "What's on your mind?" Ryan chuckled softly. "Just thinking about how lucky I am to wake up next to you." Alex rolled onto their side, meeting his gaze. "Funny, I was thinking the same thing." They spent the rest of the day lazily lounging around, talking about dreams and plans for the future. Neither of them knew exactly what lay ahead, but for the first time, they weren't afraid of the unknown. Together, they had built something real, something rooted in trust, patience, and unconditional support. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Alex and Ryan stood on the balcony of Ryan's apartment, wrapped in a blanket and holding hands. Below them, the city buzzed with life, but up here, it felt like they existed in their own little world. "Do you ever think about how crazy this is?" Alex asked suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence. "What do you mean?" Ryan replied, turning to look at them. "All of it. How we met, how far we've come. It started with a medical emergency, and now," they trailed off, gesturing vaguely between them. Ryan smiled, squeezing their hand. "Yeah, I think about it all the time. Life has a funny way of surprising us when we least expect it." Alex leaned into him, resting their head on his shoulder. "I'm glad it did." And in that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the evening and the warmth of each other's presence, they both knew one thing for certain: whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because sometimes, fate throws you curveballs, not to break you, but to lead you to exactly where you're meant to be.